Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 371. This is your guide to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, joined by Charlie Carden. He doesn't talk about weather anymore. Carden.
I'm voguing for some reason. I have no idea why. Hey!
That was voguing.
Strike a pose. There's nothing
there you go.
to
That's
it.
Better.
Vogue.
That's better. This is not voguing. I don't know what this is.
This is some kind of malfunction.
We're all voguing for some reason. Well,
is it the Bat Tusi? I'm good. It was funny. This is, as I'll talk about, we were in Chicago over the weekend for Mission Chicago. All of Monday, and anybody else I talked to was like, con let that, it was such a bummer when you have to come back to reality after being, in the circus. So it's okay. I feel better now because it's Thursday, but man, that was a tough come down. And we haven't unpacked. I'm in the room full of not only the stuff we bought, but all the stuff from Grand Rapids Comic Con from the booth that our people ran. So my dining room looks like a goddamn flea market. It's a mess. Oh well, that's me.
We are also joined by our regular Miss Katie Quinn. How are you?
I'm good. I actually also was in Chicago the last weekend.
Doing something fun?
Yeah, I went to Expo Chicago, which is a giant art convention.
Ooh.
Like where all of the galleries, like international galleries, go and show off all of their artwork. So that was.
Is that where they sell all the hotel artwork? Like,
no, this is the highbrow artwork.
Ooh,
so lots of big installations and
how high are your brows? My.
Very high. There were some price tags that were very, very high.
Did you do this all the time? To go like this?
Yes. Oh yes, lots of thinking. I put on my Riker beard so I could strike it.
Very thoughtful.
Seem more thoughtful.
Oh, like Data's fake bird. Notice how I strike it thusly.
Exactly. I did that all the time.
Well, that prepares us for, once again, highbrow art. And we're going to go on to that because we're going to talk about the cover this week because it's Thor 371. And it looks like Judge Dredd joining the Marvel Universe and is coming because Peace is coming to town.
I love
this. Is
the missile chair. I love it. I want one.
Is this a Thor comic or is this just a Doctor Who comic? Because that looks like a Dalek. Dalek?
It's like a Dalek and Judge Dredd had a baby.
Well,
this dude.
He's got rocket. There's rockets coming out, and it's also a stop sign because he's got like green, red, green, which I don't know. I guess there's no yield.
Like a red light, green light type of deal.
Oh, there you go.
Green means go, red means die. Oh, yeah. He shoots you with a missile. But apparently, Peace comes to town. This gentleman looks like you said, he looks a mixture of, he's riding a Dalek, they turn to a motorcycle, and he kind of looks like a weird Judge Dredd knockoff, and it says Peace.
I would willing to believe, without having to read this, that at the end of it, Thor beats the shit out of this guy, and he's never heard from again. Lay odds? Anyone? Sound good?
I would not take that bet. I'm going to be honest because
smart.
I don't like those odds.
It's bad.
I think the space cop thinks Thor committed a crime and he's going to try to bring him to justice. And it just ends up being a classic misunderstanding. They shake hands and they laugh and they walk into the sunset.
So it's like the end of an episode of He-Man. I get it.
Exactly. High five, jumping in the air. Pause.
Right. Slaps. Oh my goodness. Well, while that is full of tremendous possibilities, and we are going to talk about some of our past covers later on in the program. Now I think it's the time, Todd. We've got to get on the number 3 bus, get us down to the corner of Hollywood and Vine to catch up with our favorite news correspondent, the faithful Madam Webb, with her rumors and news. So let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. We get back with Madam Webb as she also was in Chicago, but she was there for the Sausage Queen competition, guys. And guess what? She didn't win. But she did get a consolidation prize where she got a month's supply of broccoli bratwurst. So there you go. Who was the real winner in that?
Brocklewurst.
Yes,
Todd. For our first story, I'm going to say we always try to kind of corny it up a little bit with these titles, but you absolutely nailed it. So, Coming to an abandoned Kmart this fall. That's right. Spirit Halloween store. Oh, I didn't even know they were going to call it Spirit Halloween store, so they're not even messing around. It's going to be a film this holiday season with She's All That's Rachel Lee Cook, and you got it. Who else would you pair with Rachel Lee Cook but Back to the Future's Christopher Lloyd? Very busy this season, also in The Mandalorian Season 3. But yeah, is this movie going to be like that movie with Jennifer Connelly from the 90s where she was trapped in a Target all night? Is this going to kind of be like that? I'm getting a vibe. What do you think?
I'm thinking it's going to be more like Halloween Town.
Oh, okay. Halloween Town. There you go.
Or it could be like that bad Adam Sandler with Hubie Halloween. It could be like that.
Oh boy. Oh yeah, Katie, you missed out on that. But Hubie Halloween was hotly debated on this show because Todd is an advocate of calling something dumb fun when he watches something moronic and needs an excuse about why it's okay. And I can't condone Adam Sandler in any way, shape, or form. So I just can't. I can't do it.
He is the definition of dumb fun, Charlie. So he just fits in there. But you missed the key casting, Charlie.
Yeah, I was thinking
Marla Gibbs is going to be in this. So there you go.
Right, and is that a different Jaden Smith? It's spelled differently, so that's not Will Smith's son. Just looking at some.
Maybe it is because his career is just taken off. But this is going to essentially be like a Goosebumps, where something goes awry, and essentially three friends, middle school friends, of course, go out and they've outgrown trick or treating. They end up spending the night daring to be locked inside a Spirit Halloween store on Halloween night. But apparently the store is really haunted.
Oh, man, it's really haunted?
Yeah. So I don't know what this is going to be rated. I don't know if this is going to be just goofy kid-like fun like Halloween Town, or if this is going to be like one of those really scary, weird slasher films.
The new family kids adventure flick.
Oh,
so I'm guessing it's a kid's flick.
Okay.
That's what I was saying. It's probably giving me more Halloween Town vibes.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, makes sense. Mr. Boogedy, those type of films.
Mr. Boogedy, very good.
I can only imagine all of the props that will be seen were like and you could buy this at a Halloween store now.
Oh yes, it just be blatant product placement.
Oh, love this. Yes, this is going to be fantastic. Christopher Lloyd, man, I will tell you this, he was awesome in Nobody. Get a chance to see that movie. He was awesome in it. So I had to see him get jobs.
He was in something else that we watched. April really wanted. It came out at the same time as we just watched it on. It's on Amazon Prime, and I'm drawing a total blank. But he played the elderly grandfather, like the old sage. He just is great in those roles because he's got a skullet now, and he kind of looks like Riff Raff from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's perfect.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
But the benefits of age. Oh well, what's not benefiting with age is this next story about Axe body spray. Todd, what's going on?
Yeah, so this is fun. I love this title. So there's going to be a big crossover coming to Marvel, and it involves Avengers, X-Men, and Eternals, and it's dubbed Axe Judgment Day, and Axe body spray. I put a picture in there for y'all to look at it so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. So it's by Kieran Gillen, Valerie Shitty, which is a great name, Marte Garcia, and it's coming. It's essentially got these three teams fighting against each other because essentially Eternals, they're fighting against the deviants. Well, apparently they've deemed the mutants deviants, so that is the crux of this series, and essentially they attack Krakoa, which is essentially the home of the mutants now. So the Avengers are probably going to be stuck in the middle of it, and this could be fairly entertaining. So I like a good crossover. That's probably what you're going to ask, and I'm sure, Katie, you may ask the same thing. What does this mean? How many issues you're going to have to buy? How are you going to get in this? And so far, it's a three-way event featuring the Avengers, of course. Tie-ins are so far limited to X-Men titles. So interesting. So that's not bad considering it will probably be a core book and then just the X-Men will tie into it in regards to that. So you don't have to buy everything in three different sets of titles, but this could be interesting. Don't know if it'll have big events tied out of it or big repercussions coming out of it. We'll see.
Well, I can simply say To quote, to paraphrase Mean Girls, stop trying to make Eternals happen. Just let them go away.
No, forget you. Gillian's Eternals is awesome.
It's
amazing.
Okay.
That's
I
good.
love
That's
it.
good.
Yeah, break it down. Break it
Yes.
down. Give me the Reader's Digest version. What's awesome about it?
Well, it's Gillen. I mean, his writing is fantastic. It is clever. It has a lot of heart to it. It's not to, or well, I mean, I think you found out in like the first 2 pages. The narrator is the world, is the Earth. Yeah.
Whoa. Wow.
And basically, they're trying to figure out why the Earth is sick. And
Todd, why did you have us
enjoy it? So I was not interested in this at all until I looked over and saw Gillen's name on it, and I'm like, oh yes, please, absolutely, I will be picking this up.
Todd,
I'm a stan for Gillen. That's all
what was that horrible Eternals thing that you like? We got to read something from the Eternals, and you pulled something out, and it was just like, eh.
You know, we actually read the new Eternals book, Charlie. I remember we read that. We read Shang-Chi and something else, but they were all number 1, so we only read the first issue. I can't remember our takeaway from that book, though. So
I don't either. I feel exposed to knowledge, and it's not a bad thing. I feel well exposed.
I mean, I had brought that up before when I was reading it, because I was reading it on here.
Oh, whoops.
So you'll have to try that.
I was going to say, this is a recap. We'll come back and revisit that series. I'm assuming it's like 2021 series, 2022 series.
Yeah,
Right.
2021, I think, is when it started.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay. Well, we can visit. We probably have like 6 or 7 issues about ready to read for that, so that'll be good. But just give you an idea of like how many comics are involved in this. So there's a free comic book day comic, Avengers X-Men #1 in May, so you get that for free. Eve of Judgment coming in June, and then you get Judgment Day 1 and 2, Death to Mutants #1, Immortal X-Men, X-Force, X-Men, and X-Men Red. So actually, it's only like 8 issues total for the event. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad. That, if that's good, and I love the Avengers, love the X-Men, if it's something core, I just, have struggled low these last few years with the big crossover. But I suppose if you turn yourself over to it, if you accept that the reading, the writing could be quality, the characters are good, maybe there'd be some decent impact, that would be something. So I heartily endorse your endorsement. Thumbs up.
Engage.
All right, what is next?
So, Charlie, I put the story in here to pique your interest and maybe Katie's as well. Yellowstone versus aliens. Apparently, we've got a new series coming to Amazon Prime. It's called Outer Range, and it's a paranormal western. Essentially, Josh Brolin is starring in this, and it happens in the the Rocky Mountain areas, the Montanas,
Well, it says a Wyoming rancher, so I'm gonna pin it to Wyoming.
That's pretty good. So,
based on that.
So essentially, this rancher, Josh Brolin, unfortunately has to deal with it's a cowboy drama, a family drama, plus the supernatural with a yeehaw X-Files vibe.
Todd, it's your favorite. Anybody remember Cowboys and Aliens from about 10 years ago? I thought that movie was fine.
Based on a comic book.
And it was based on a comic book. I guess I didn't realize that. So, if you, Katie, if you haven't kept up, Todd loves to lampoon April and I's enjoyment of the show Yellowstone, which stars Kevin Costner.
She's been there for it, Charlie.
I know, but when we had a guest on a couple weeks ago who made mention of 1883, Todd was just like over here, trying to bite his hand so he didn't say anything about it. So, well, Todd, if this can take all the things I love about Yellowstone and put a supernatural spin on it and actually get you to watch, I'm going to say at least one episode. Okay, excuse me, a maximum of one episode, and then get your feedback about it. I am all for it. Thumbs up.
Yeah, the cast doesn't sound bad. Lily Taylor's also in it. Imogene Poots, great name. And also Will Patton is in this. Katie, I mean, what do you think? I like when they mix genres.
I mean, I'd be down to watch at least the first episode. I mean, if this is going to give me like a Twin Peaks X-File vibe, I'd be definitely down for that. Mm-hmm. As long as it's more suspense thriller than like horror thriller,
it's not
then that would be like where I draw the line. Because I like the mystery kind of paranormal unknown type of stuff. It's just when it starts getting into the more gruesome stuff where I'm like, I gotta take a step back.
Yeah, right. True dat. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how many episodes this will be, but I like Jeff Rowland, so he's a strong actor. He wouldn't take a crappy project, hopefully. And I guess Brad Pitt also executive produces this, so come for it. It's April. It is coming April 15th, so tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Basically, when this episode drops, so you got something to watch. You got something to watch when you're done with us. So, Todd, this next headline really confused me because I thought it said R.I.P. Lago, like Mar-a-Lago, but it's Iago, which is, of course, referring to the passing of beloved, funny-voiced comedian Gilbert Gottfried. That happened just a few days back. But, of course, his role was pivotal, not only in creating that animated character from Aladdin. Am I remembering correctly? I'm bad with Disney stuff. But then also he played and helped create the DC villain Knick-Knack. Was this in the? This was in the Superboy show from the late '80s with a Superman. I bet you couldn't even name the dude who played Superman in that unless it's in here because I have no clue. Guy Incognito, exactly. So, but yeah, that was right at the beginning of his career because that was in when was that show on? 88, 89, something like that. But it says right here the kind of backfield story of the character found its way into the comics, and it was kind of co-crafted by Gottfried. I didn't know either one of these facts, so that is I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah,
he has been in a ton of things. I've always really thought Gilbert was hilarious. He actually looks young in this picture, which it's funny. You always think sometimes people, it's hard to imagine what they would look young. It's like Gilbert Gottfried always looked old. He looked like an old crotchety dude. So to see this here, he looked like halfway young. That's not bad. But I mean, yeah, he was. What is it? He was also the Duck, the Affleck Duck. A lot of people may know him best from that role. But other than that, I mean, just a very good comic. Everybody knows him because of his voice. He was always in all of these, the roasts and everything. And there's a picture of him with Bob Saget and Willie Anderson. Not Willie Anderson.
Louis Anderson. The three comics that have passed away in the last 2 months.
Yeah, there was a picture of them in the beginning of 2022. So yeah, it's really sad. I don't know. Does anybody have any good Gilbert Gottfried stories or memories?
I don't know. I think some of the more just anything is memorable about his voice. Like I think he did a lot of those. Was it Jeff Ross's roasts on Comedy Central in the last 10 years? He was a great insult comic, at least in that vein. Or kind of in that moment. So, but yeah, I'm trying to remember a movie I've seen him in. Nothing, or a show. Nothing is really rocketing to memory. But kind of like Bobcat Goldthwait, just a very kind of fun. He had a shtick. I don't know that was his real voice, but even if it was, he really ramped it up. But it was always fun to hear. I always enjoyed it.
I think the last time I heard anything that he was in specifically was Hello from the Magic Tavern, which is a podcast that's kind of a pseudo they do improv, but the whole idea is that a guy was sucked through a portal behind a Burger King, I think, into a magic realm, and he's getting a slight Wi-Fi signal through the portal from that Burger King, and so he makes a podcast by interviewing people from this magic realm, and they end up I think it's the second season they end up going to, there's the Dark Lord who's trying to take over the world, and there's a guy called the Cockroach Clown, and he's always talked about off camera, and you just ended up where you would hear Gilbert Gottfried I guess they just reached out to him randomly and just asked him to if you want to be involved, and so he just recorded lines for them and they just randomly spliced them in this background conversation. And I think one of the lines was you can't spell manslaughter without laughter.
And it's true.
It's true. So you would just hear him randomly saying that, which was both incredibly terrifying in Gilbert Gottfried's voice, but also absolutely hilarious.
Oh my God. I'm in.
The entire thing is very funny. It's got kind of some slight D&D vibes to it, but without any of the actual D&D aspects, just because it's fantasy. So yeah, it's all just a bunch of like improv guys doing this stupid stuff.
Oh my God, that's totally awesome.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is there's a podcast called Good One, and it's all about where they bring on a comedian that created a joke or a skit or something like SNL. They'll have like the people that made it, and they talk about how did you come up with that, and they go through the different pieces of how a joke gets created, why it was popular. Really funny. And they had one about the Aristocrats, and they had Gilbert Gottfried on for his specific take on the Aristocrats. Aristocrats is a joke where every comedian had their own version of the Aristocrats joke. It was actually made into a documentary. And they highlighted Gilbert Gottfried's version of the Aristocrats. And all I will say is only listen if you will not be easily offended by horribly graphic sexual things. I mean, this is like a joke that should be rated X. And it's all the comedians all use that joke to disgust each other. It's almost like trying to who can tell the grossest joke. And I think Gilbert Gottfried and Bob Saget might be the tops compared to like other comedians like Andrew.
Yeah.
They make Andrew Dice Clay like blush. Is all I could say. It's pretty bad, but yeah, if you want to, it's on a good one. Check it out; it's hilarious. He's just such a funny guy. It's sad to see him go. He was also on Wings, which I loved that show back in the day. I think that's where I first was introduced to Gilbert Gottfried. Was in the show Wings back in the day.
Gotcha.
So look that up, kid. It's a funny sitcom. There you go.
Good stuff. All right, and then lastly, it had to happen because out of the enduring failure of the of the majority of the DC films, it looks like they are looking to actually embrace the things that are working and turn around and spin that into. I know. Who knew? And
something's working.
Yeah, Peacemaker's working. That shit is the bomb. But yeah, looking at things like. Looking at the Batman, looking at the program they have on HBO Max, including Peacemaker. It doesn't mention here, but the animated Harley Quinn series is
fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
And so yeah, looking to embrace a little bit more of a vibe than that, and they really mentioned the films like Joker, which I saw once, and frankly was disturbed enough by seeing it once that I've not watched it again. But it's a shining example of how second-tier characters can become big poppin', because again it's all about making quality content. Like the Shazam film was great, but it's like who's Shazam? Shrug the shoulders. Most people aren't going to know. But then they make other Batman and Superman and Justice League movies, and they're all kind of poopy or elements thereof. So I don't know. I mean, you've tried the rest, now try the best, right? It's kind of their methodology. I think it's a phenomenal idea. The properties that they're talking about, I certainly enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, what's driving this is essentially DC has gone through a lot of different creative and directors and everything like that. It's not like where Marvel, it was Kevin Feige. The only reason that Marvel MCU is good is because Kevin Feige said, I'm going to create something while Marvel's struggling. Nobody cares about Marvel. They went through bankruptcy. Nobody's even behind them. And he had the luxury to do a lot of heavy lifting and didn't have a lot of involvement and creative input. He established something, and then Disney bought him and said, keep doing what you're doing. DC's in a different spot. They'd never had that because they've been owned by Warner Brothers for almost 40 to 50 years. So it's not like they started things while they were under Warner Brothers, and there's been not one consistent leader. It's been different. Well, if you don't know this, DC was part of Warner Brothers. They were bought by AT&T. And AT&T was a horrible, horrible company to be owned by because they were all about getting wealth and sell things off. So they eventually decided they were going to spin off Warner Brothers, and they actually was merged with Discovery. So Discovery is a huge content provider. They have tons of shows. You probably watch one, you don't even know it. Well, they now merged with Warner Brothers and have a new service coming. This was just happened. So AT&T is out of the picture, and because of that, now have new leadership at HBO and all these shows. So you're going to have a different viewpoint in content as game. Discovery is a content company owning another content company, which is hopefully a good thing. Hopefully it means that they are focused on versus selling cell phones and cable plans and data and things like that, like Cable Town. with NBC.
Like Cabletown. I love it. Oh,
Exactly.
Hank Hooper and Cabletown. Exactly.
Yeah, so there was a shakeup with all the executives and everybody, even at HBO as well. So this is the big thing where they're not sure what they want to do, but it sounds like they're like, we've had some shining spots, but we also had a lot of crap too. To your point, Charlie, and because of that, they're like they just want a little bit of uniformity. It's like we want to get good talent, and let them tell good stories, but we can't be like, we've got an X-rated Joker movie, and we got this. It's like they kind of have to fit together a little bit. Not necessarily they have to meet and have a good time and tell stories and eat shawarma, but at least get them on the same page. It's like you can't make Superman die of kryptonite poisoning and then expect to use him somewhere else. It's very confusing, but you know what? It is what it is, because they're doing TV, movies, just like, and then animated stuff, just like Marvel is finally starting to do. With the animated stuff, because they've been holding back. So this is what we're going to see. They have a new leader there. The leader that's currently on contract until 2023 is Walter Hamada, and they may retain him or they may let him go. If they do that, then they're going to need a new leader. And they said looking for a Kevin Feige type, not necessarily as a creative, but as someone just to keep things together and get like all the pieces together that they can entrust, that there's a vision and proper focus versus like throwing everything at the wall and see what fits. And it seems like, well, we've got that one Pennyworth show on Epix, and we got this over here, and we got this over there. It's like versus Disney has everything at Hulu or Disney Plus. So I think that's where they're going. HBO Max is probably going to be the home for everything going forward, which makes a lot of sense. Maybe the CW, we'll see how that goes, because potentially that's maybe sold up, but that's where we're headed. But with that, I think this is a good thing, because DC has really struggled with their identity, and I would love to see them have a stronger voice, still highlighting cool projects like the Batman, like Joker, like Harley Quinn, where you can take chances and be R-rated and do cool things, and still do the kids stuff like Super Pets. So there you go, Katie. Last word.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hesitant just because DC lacks consistency. Like, especially with everything they've tried to do in the past, 15 years. So I would say that it's going to be more of a, one of my favorite things to say is a wait and see approach. Just because they try to rush stuff out, and it seems like they're more pushy with just making something so they can have something out versus actually having something quality, because they don't like the wait, like having that Marvel payoff of waiting 10 years of doing a whole series of movies before they did Avengers. They were like, we've released 2 movies. Now it's time for a team up. We're going to introduce all of the other stuff. And so I just say, you know what? Like, I've realized that I actually haven't watched most of the DC stuff out there right now. Like, I haven't seen the second Suicide Squad. I haven't seen Birds of Prey. This is coming from someone who has a Harley Quinn tattoo. And I haven't actually seen Shazam, just because, like, I think when we're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably watch Shazam. And then when I'm in front of the TV, I just, like, I don't even think about it, just because it's not there. And I'm just like, I could probably do something like that, but I could also, maybe do something else.
Watch Lower Decks again. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, now granted, like, the exception to the rule is definitely the Harley Quinn show, but that's one of those where I'm not sure if they know why it works.
Right.
Because, it's kind of a lightning in a bottle situation, because it's funny, it's brutal, it's very Harley Quinn, but it also has a lot of heart to it, which a lot of her comics kind of lack, where they're just like, oh, she's crazy, and then it's just
right.
So I don't know. I'll
see
what happens.
Though, Marvel gives you a specific type of content. They don't go on the fringes typically. They do it on occasion, and to be honest, Marvel had a lot of crap though when they were doing TV. Before it came under Kevin Feige just recently, we had like Cloak and Dagger, we had Runaways, we had so Marvel can be inconsistent too. They haven't had good animated stuff either. They've been lacking in that territory, and I would say DC's been really good with projects like Doom Patrol, which I think you really love, Katie. And Marvel would never greenlight something like that, but I think that's cutting edge. It's crazy. It's exploring issues, and I think Marvel can feel ultimately very samey and not be edgy. It can be very consistent and very good, but their type of storytelling ultimately will create barriers, like we talked about Eternals. They're kind of doomed now. They're kind of doomed because we won't get a chance to look at them again because they already were established. We can't do that. They're stuck. And it's like, I hate that. I hate that a good character could be kept off the viewpoint because we tried once and it failed versus, no, your takes suck. and you should give them another try. So I think there's no great way to do it, but I will say DC has allowed great people to take great ideas and go forward, but they've also allowed great people to do, or good directors to craft things like Wonder Woman 1984. So, and that wasn't rushed, and that was total creative like endeavors and embracing it. Like, no, total creative control allowed you to make a crap fest, and you didn't. You know, Emperor had no clothes. Oh well.
It was
okay.
Yep. Super hot take. Looking for a Kevin Feige type. They're just going to hire Kevin Feige, and he's going to do both. I've said
Bevan Geige.
Yeah, he's going to be. He'll be the Guy Bartendo type. All right. Well, that takes us out of the news. So Todd, now got to get back to get a an off-brand cab that you've got to pay him in Canadian loony dollars. We're going down to Scugtown, Zero Town, going to the Geek Easy. Keep your hand on your wallet. But this is where we talk about where we're digging. So let's go.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. Katie got a drink poured. Charlie got a drink poured. I do too. I'm drinking a D-Lovely Porter from beautiful Urban Growler, a woman-owned brewery in the Twin Cities.
Awesome.
Well, all right.
Yes. There you go. So, Katie, kick us off. I see two things that one my mom loves and one my mom does not love.
Can you guess which one?
Which is which?
Bingo.
Well, I don't know if she doesn't love it. She just probably has never watched it. So.
Oh, probably not. I have been watching Letterkenny because I realized that there was a new season that we had not watched yet. Very enjoyable. And then I am just rewatching Grace and Frankie because that's the thing I put on when I'm working on other stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been chilling with.
Nice.
And I'm sure, you should tell your mom to try to watch Grace and Frankie. I'm sure she'd love it.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah, you got it. You got it right. No, it's funny. I think I think that show's finally hitting its final season, too. So
I think its final season is out. So I haven't watched the final season.
Did they bring back Dolly Parton for it finally? Did they get her?
I have no idea. I wish they did.
I think that was the point, right? A 9 to 5 reunion, right?
So, I never even thought about that. Amazing.
Well, you and Mark Carabin, our Star Wars buddy, our video game buddy that we do podcasts with, obviously, he just bought, or he's buying, a Letterkenny Funko Pop collection.
Ooh,
fun.
Collection.
It was just released. He just put it on Twitter, Charlie. Did you not see that?
I guess I haven't been on Twitter, but because I don't want to be ashamed, I'll look it up now.
And he has seen the Letterkenny crew live. Apparently, they do like some type of live, is it like a recreation of an episode or
no?
What
They're
is
actually a sketch group. They started like on YouTube and stuff, doing sketches, and then they basically just created the show from the sketches that they would do.
In my fan fiction, Charlie, what is it? Is it My Bloody Valentine or Valentine's Day? What's the Canadian horror film?
Well, it's My Bloody Valentine. That's formed right on CBI where Mark lives. Yeah.
Yeah. So they should make a newer one, but involve the Letterkenny cast. I think that'd be fantastic.
I would watch that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I would definitely watch that.
It's like nobody's business. Absolutely.
It's like true crossover. Yeah. So, well, very cool. I've only watched a little bit of Letterkenny, but I enjoy what they're going for. I like a good comedy. So I'm looking for a new one. I finally finished up My Name is Earl, which ends on a cliffhanger, which sucks.
No!
Which they never finished the season. I know. And they never finished it. I'm like, I have to look for fan fiction now on how they wrap up these things. But that was a good one. So I'm rewatching American Dad because I just love that show. It's so dumb because of Roger, the alien. He's just so dumb. I love him. He wears his costumes.
So there are shows that Todd will watch more than once.
I will, because I like those snapshot comedies, because it's just little jokes make me laugh.
Right.
I don't want a long form drama or anything like that, and I'm always looking for new ones. So
then you should, in the spirit of what Katie and I talked about on Code a couple of episodes back, you should be watching all of Lower Decks. Because it's the same way. It's the same thing. It's little ha-has, and Katie kind of.
Lower Decks for me is the Orville of Star Trek.
I thought the Orville was the Orville of Star Trek.
Its jokes are okay. You have to be deep into Star Trek to really get the humor. When I watch it at that lower level, I'm like, the writing's okay.
I will.
Okay.
I will circle back to talk about Lower Decks in a minute.
Because I watched like 7 I watched like 7 episodes, so I've definitely given it the. I'll watch more of it. It's just not like nothing said. Wow, I want to watch more because I love it. I'm like, it kind of has the tropes of a comedy, so those characters will have their thing, right? That's why you keep watching comedies. I always say give it a season, so I will give it a full season as I always do. And Parks and Rec is the classic one, man. That first season sucked. It was not good.
That was rough.
And it was only like 6 episodes, so then you get to move on to something better within the series. So,
Well, they typically find what they need to fix by the first season being over. Yeah, so that's where we go. Yeah, it's just like Seinfeld, just like those shows. But something that didn't need to be fixed, and they even made it better, was Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2.
I want to see this, but it's kind of bittersweet for me. So I will have to. I will live vicariously through you. So go ahead.
It's funny. I took my 6-year-old son. He used to read the comics, all that fun stuff with Sonic. We enjoyed the first movie. Had its flaws, definitely.
Yeah.
But it was better than it deserved to be. And that movie, obviously, they changed the graphics. Originally, the way he looked was just weird, like almost like a weird,
scary.
like savage boy. It was like, what are you doing?
Like where the wild things go, kind of boy. Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like when you see like this is the real version of the animated characters, like Futurama, where they make the characters look kind of human. It's like, oh, that's grotesque.
Oh yeah,
don't want that. Don't want that. Yeah. So Sonic 1, we enjoyed it. We all had a good time with it. Charlie, I think you enjoyed it. Did you see it?
I watched it because I felt like I should support them after they literally got like just hated on for that terrible rendition. And also I wanted to see Jim Carrey. I thought that'd be great. It was
a movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of forgettable. I mean, I guess I get spoiled because I watch so much kids animation and like kids geared stuff that I love it when there's also like more adult, not like adult themes like XXX type themes, but more like adult nuances of emotion. That's what I'm saying. When I realized I was going to say adult themes,
the sensual adventures of Sonic.
Right. I didn't mean those kind of adult themes, but I meant more like things that you can also grasp on as an adult, where you're like seeing kind of the growth and humanity of the character. And I didn't really feel like that was in Sonic. It definitely felt like it was just a kid's movie.
It was a kid's film. It was a kid's movie. Yeah.
And definitely. So I watched it, I was like, that's fine. I don't have any desire to see the second one. As much as I love Knuckles.
The good thing about that the second one is it's essentially like partitioned, which is very weird. It's almost like you see like I think they finally figured out they took notes and said, hey, what worked, what didn't work. They largely nailed it except for one part. It was so weird. It's like a weird dichotomy because essentially they ditched the humans of the Sonic's family, but they ditched them and made them go off and have their own adventure, and you had to come check in with them. And it was just so dumb. It was so weird. Right. I'm like, that part felt. If they had removed that part, this movie would have been so much better. But I think they had to make it like Sonic as a family.
Right.
But what this movie did do is it fully embraced the oddity that is the Sonic universe of characters. So they brought in 2 new characters largely, and if this truly is Jim Carrey's swan song, because that's the big buzz, like this may be his last film.
Yeah, right.
He gave it 300% in this movie, more so even than the last one. It was full on Jim Carrey mode. It was very fun. There was a very fun dance off scene that I just laughed. I just couldn't believe myself, and I'm like, they're doing this. All right, I'm in. This movie had a lot of. Plus, they did a lot of the things from the video games, which I'm like, and Logan's like even saying, "Yeah, Dad, they like really totally covered things." I'm like, well, that's coming from a teen who has specific tastes, and for me to have just a good time, he's like, Dad, I like that movie. And we were even laughing because there's this one character, this guy we like that does video game reviews, who's actually a blue Muppet, which is just a very weird thing.
I feel like I've heard of this, so yes.
His name is Arlo. He's very funny, but he comes off as like a Muppet, and he just does things as a Muppet, and he's very good. But he was like bagging in the movie, so like it didn't honor the source material. I'm like, what source material? Where Sonic goes by in a 2D element, hits rings and releases. I'm like, what source material? The comics that were made by Archie Comics, the animated series with Steve Urkel as the voice. I mean, at a point, I'm like, guys, lighten up. It's a video game. It's not like it's got deep source material like, oh, they didn't, so whatever. Well, it's fun. Like, it's a blast. It's a better movie than the last one.
That's like what you're saying about Halo, about people who are pissing in their sheets about, oh my God, it's just not honoring this thing or that thing. It's like, it's a first person shooter, and where's the story in that? Walks around shooting things?
No. There is a very in-depth story in Halo.
No, there's a depth story, but it's not in the game. It's actually in the 85 novels you read on the side.
Yes, I think that and that's what we've been discussing. That was my impression over what we've
It's lore, so it's like that.
Lore,
and
right.
we have people that love the books, love the comics, and I totally get that. But in the actual games, the storytelling in the games is not good. Master Chief says all of probably like 12 sentences. Things are happening around him to inform you the story, but in the actual Halo TV series, it's actually giving Master Chief some depth and background story. So I appreciate that, but yeah, we're derailing. I don't know. Have you watched Halo yet? Halo, Katie, have you watched Halo yet?
No, I heard Master Chief takes off his helmet, and I'm not going to watch that.
It's like
But the Mandalorian took off his helmet.
Mando did it, so
That's different.
Why? In Master Chief, he's only battling. In this, he's actually hanging out and talking to people.
Yeah,
so that's why he never said he doesn't take off his helmet. We just never see him because in those games, he's constantly going off and killing people all the time. There's downtime. And it makes sense to take off his helmet like the other Spartans would.
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay, well, let's move on because we're kind of deadlocked.
Yes. So we'll go on from there.
Agree to
But
disagree.
that series is so-so. It's not great. It's not bad. It's good for entry and entry level if they're never going to play the Halo game. So I'll give them that. So there we go. Moon Knight, though. I think this pairs very well into the DC side because I'm very mixed bag in Moon Knight right now. I like what they're going for, but I feel like it's irrelevant to Marvel. I feel like this show
zero connectivity.
I feel like it's hampered by Marvel because it has to stick to certain parameters, which then limits the way they can approach the character. They have to stick within the Marvel confines this Marvel. This isn't a Netflix show.
But what is it? What do you feel? What do we think they're holding back? I mean, there's no connectivity to the Marvel at this point. Are you saying thematically it's being held back?
Thematically, because think if people are lauding this for mental health, I don't think they are. I think this is just two people having abilities. I don't think this is as deep as it needs to go. I think Legion, which is a series by FX, which was done by Marvel before it came to Disney, did a much better job with mental health and dealing with those issues. I think it's dealing on a very surface level, to be honest. And I don't think it's truly there. I think you're dealing with someone. I've got a guy that's really knowledgeable. I got a guy gas. It's not. I got a guy that can barely get out of bed and can't live and can't do. So I think that's where, if we're going that way, I think if this was handled by outside of the MCU, I think they could explore some issues pretty deeply and could do some deep dive things. With this, it's very surface level. It feels like where Buffy explored mental health on a very quick level, and we're out through it. Now we essentially are at this point with Mark Spector and everything, where it's like, oh, I can hand him off. We can switch sides. We can do this. We can do that. We can do this. And it's like, okay, it's kind of like saying, you can get over it if you're a superhero, which I think is a false narrative. Whereas Legion covered it much better, much real world, much more impactful, and much more relatable to people that are dealing with mental health. So I think that's a crutch to call it out. It deals better in the comics, deals with it other places. In this, it feels like a super adventure with a guy that has two personas, but he still can get by, and he's not hampered in life, if that's a good sense. I do enjoy it. Yeah. I do enjoy it, but I kind of feel like this being in Marvel and where it's going, I'm saying, well, how's Moon Knight going to fit in with the other Avengers characters, those type of things? And I'm like, sometimes it just doesn't work in the Marvel mode where things are supposed to connect.
Marvel mode, yes. Go full Marvel mode, yes. So I don't know. I don't know. And we're 3 episodes in. Was today 3 or 4?
3, and there's 3 left.
Right.
Yeah. 3, and there's 3 left. Yeah. I like it. I like Oscar Isaac a lot. I like what they're doing. But like I said, with Marvel, when we talk about their mode, I just think it's kind of like in a lot of sense, it's a DC light. It's kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah.
When I look at this, I'm like, I love what they did with Hawkeye because it was really, they could have a lot of fun. We understand where Hawkeye fits, some of the characters going there. This one feels like a one-off, and which is fine, but it's kind of that weird balance of real supernatural monsters and these things like that versus dealing with real monsters in your head.
Right.
Which is, I think, where they wanted to go, but they couldn't because of the confines of Disney.
I don't think that it's supposed to be talking about dissociative identity disorder. I think that the idea is that Mark Spector is an avatar that took over Steven's body in regards to, that's where Khonshu put him. So I don't think it's so much like Legion definitely was great at dealing with mental health issues, and it was absolutely fantastic. But I think that The way that Moon Knight is doing it is it's more of like a supernatural vibe. So I don't think it's necessarily supposed to be talking about mental health issues as much.
But they do tag it at the end of the episode. If you have mental, I think that's what that is. And they said Moon Knight is all about the mental health issues, dealing with like dissociative disorder. So I kind of feel like in this way, it's like they're trying to go for it and trying to tell people that's what it's about. And to your point, Katie, I don't think it is about that. But I think everybody keeps pointing it as just good for mental health. So I'm like, like I said, it feels like a light touch on it.
It's a dabble. I agree, but I'm totally in Katie's camp about this. It's Khonshu messing about with this mortal as Jonas Harrow, the villain, who he purports, we don't know how on the level this guy is. That I was Khonshu's last avatar, and he's going to lie to you and this and that. And it's like ex-boyfriends, you know what I mean? But again, he's completely untrustworthy. Don't necessarily know that he's on the level. So. I'm engaged. I'm interested in seeing where it's going. So yeah.
I mean, I'll make 2 points. They did, when they were talking about doing reviews, they released the first 4 episodes to journalists or to reporters and critics before they would so they could get an actual vibe of the show. So I don't know if we've even actually seen where this is going fully. And secondly, I think they really missed the mark if they're going to be talking about dissociative identity disorder of not doing a Hathor Sekhmet combo. I'm just saying, Khonshu. No. Hathor Sekhmet, that's some justice, that's some fun. That's where it should have gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, where it's going, we're halfway through. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. They should have made it 8 episodes long, because there's 3 more episodes to now deal with something, and is it going to end on a high note? Is it going to be like are they going to and by the way, here's all these Marvel characters you should know at the end? It's like, does it feel like it's wedged in to fit somewhere? And Oscar Isaac's, apparently this is the only thing he's contracted for. So this could be just a one-off, which is fine. I like the character. I like what they're doing. It's like, once again, if this is supposed to be, everything's supposed to fit in the Marvel universe, then where are the stakes, as you could say? And sometimes stakes are just in having a good story.
Sometimes your steak is just medium well. Oh my goodness. Moving on. I'm going to fire through quick for the sake of time. So last week on First Contact Day, that would be April the 5th, and Todd, we talked about this previously, Star Trek The Motion Picture's long-awaited 4K high-def director's edition dropped on Paramount+. Katie, have you watched?
I have not, no.
And Todd, you said you had some interest in this, so is it on your radar?
I do, because the only time I saw this movie when I was really too young to watch it, and I was bored. So I'm obviously older now. I could watch it. Charlie, how does it look?
It's and what's interesting is I saw it not only on my TV at home. There was a screening for it at Mission Chicago, which I'll talk about in a moment, and it is now getting a theatrical re-release next month. By the Fathom Events people who never do anything in Grand Rapids. It's going to be with the Celebration Theaters, which is our local chain. So I will go see it on the big screen again. And I'm very excited about that, because I saw when the 40th anniversary hit back in 2019, Phoenix Theater is a theater chain. They just opened a location here in town, but they're over in Metro Detroit. They did a screening of the original print, and the audio was really wonky, and it was kind of really hard to sit through. This is remastered in Dolby Atmos and all this different stuff. So it's great. I've always loved the film. The director's edition was a superior cut. It fixed a lot of the weird stuff that was kind of messed up. It was kind of what we really wanted George Lucas to do with those Star Wars special editions, instead of putting in Muppets and friggin' Jabba's extra this and that or whatever. He took the opportunity to show us the Voyager spacecraft at the end, which was always a cloud throughout the movie. At the end of it, he had storyboarded what it really looked like, and then this director's edition, which came out in 2001, did it, and then this was obviously the HD realization of that. So it's great. It's on Paramount Plus exclusively now. They'll be in theaters next month, and there'll be a physical and I assume digital release next fall. So I recommend it. I have been talking ad nauseum about the fact that April and I were at Mission Chicago. This is a officially licensed Star Trek convention, one of the first in many, many years. It was an absolutely incredible experience for me. I got pulled on stage with Jerry O'Connell, who again he's Commander Ransom in the Lower Decks animated show we were just talking about. He's also the guy that my mom said, because I was a short, pudgy kid, and he was a short, pudgy kid. He said, my mom said, you look like Jerry O'Connell when I was a kid. And then I'm standing on stage with him, and he's gorgeous, and I'm still fat. So what am I going to do? But I got a signed. Katie, you've seen the pictures. A signed Tom Paris plate that was signed by the 4 cast members that were on that stage and got to
From
meet.
Boy?
Yeah, from Voy.
But it really is shorter when you say it that way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Did you get your bowl signed by Chakotay or whatever? Which Tony Newsom did repeat that line in the panel, which was awesome. So no, it was fun. The con, the event itself, a little short on great vendors, but again, this was a licensed con, so you didn't have a lot of the rinky-dink bullshit that you see at a lot of conventions, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But they had really great stuff. They had a great walkthrough of Strange New Worlds and costumes and a beautiful model of the redone Enterprise that we're going to see in that show, which comes on May 5th. I got an autograph from Anson Mountain, got to meet him. I met Will Wheaton, which is I'm 8 for 9 of my original TNG cast members now. Michael Dorn, I'm coming for you. Not literally. But he'll be my last one. But it was great.
Not after the restraining order he's going to get on you now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. Oh, shit. And I went and I said it on a podcast. Whoops. Actually, Will Wheaton, even though I'm not a huge fan of his work, he was very gracious, nice guy. So it was great. So it was great. April and I are going to go to Fan Expo, which is the new Wizard World, in July. Back in Chicago, Jonathan Frakes is going to be there. I'm going to get an autograph for him, and I'm going to put my 2 Avatar Star Trek characters are Anson Mount as Captain Pike and Jonathan Frakes as Commander Riker. Going to hang those bad boys side by side in my house. So there's my hashtag 2022 Trek goals right there. So it was good stuff.
Very cool. I think that's neat that it's an official event, and I think that's kind of neat that there's fandoms that have it. Star Wars has there, of course, but then you got a lot of these bootleg events, so it's kind of neat to have that because you're guaranteed to have like what the people want to see, which is the big names, those type of things, which is great. You're still going to have your like sidebar content where you're going to have the local shows, the other ones where they bring in other people. So it's neat to have those as an addendum because it's been hard to have those lately because they've been gone away. Even the shows we want to go see, the guests were like, we don't know. Like Charlie, we were talking about, C2E2, blah blah blah. We don't know who's going to show up.
Right.
So,
and there were still plenty of limitations to this show, plexiglass, masks, and it's all kind of by the individual performer and what they wanted to do. So, but anyway, again, in the interest of keeping it short, Todd, you got the serious FOMO between Mark and myself about Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which I've really jumped into, Hetty. I'm enjoying it. I talked about it on Holocron, which just came out yesterday, so definitely tune in. But I'm loving this. A lot of enhanced functionality, a lot of different things. I'm annoyed that in order to do your level up bonuses, you have to collect these stupid little data cards. That's my annoyance so far. But it does have, and Mark was pointing out, it does have an ability to level up your characters by their category. So like you can pump up your Jedis much like it was an RPG or whatever it is. So I'm loving it. I have a long way to go. It gives you all 9 of the saga films to play through, and a lot of the beats have been covered because again there was a whole other game that covered a lot of this, but it's still fun. It's very irreverent, and I bought the season pass, so I'll still have content. I'll probably be playing this for the rest of the year because there's just tons of content. So I'm enjoying it. It's the only video games that I like. So.
Did they patch the kids bouncing yet, or the kid? I don't know if you heard about that. I don't know if you tried it yet.
What did they? Oh no! Did they do something in episode 3 about Anakin and the kids?
So to stop people from performing their own version of Order 66, they made it so that you can't actually kill any of the kids. They just hit up in the air.
Oh no!
When you hit them with a lightsaber. So people have literally been using kids to travel to because you can hit them up in the air and then jump, and so they'll basically chain to create these long distance traveling off of these poor kids. Go for
that seems
kids.
legit.
I was like, I love that people immediately were like, okay, so I can't kill them. What else can I do?
I have
use them as traversal elements.
I am still in. I have not gotten episode 3 yet.
Oh, these poor younglings.
When I get there, I will think of this conversation with dread.
Everybody that wants to redeem Anakin, just remember he killed a bunch of kids. There you go.
I love the robot chicken where he's like, okay, Anakin, you can do this. And he's having this vision about going through a field and chopping up wildflowers. And then later he's back at the apartment with Padme. He's like, oh, babe, I brought you a bunch of flowers in the other room. And she walks in and she's like, ah!
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, so that's it for me.
Excellent. Well, that is it for the Geek Easy. But now it's time for us to go to a better place where the mutants are many and we are there to entertain them. And that's the Thunderdome.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome for a topic or game to keep the mutants entertained. And this week we are doing the comic cover cavalcade. As we've talked for many episodes, we have thought we should revisit and actually read some of the classic covers we feature at the beginning of the episode. So I did the random number generator, and apparently we started this, Charlie, around
wait.
issue...
Effect for your exemption. You push the button and it went beep, bop, boop, bop, beep, boop, 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 beep, boop, boop, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That was what I did in my mind, that there was the sound that generated these numbers. But we started with like episode 282 up to 371. So there's about almost 100 episodes we've done this. So it spouted out the numbers, and here we go, which is kind of sad, but kind of good. So we all read these comics. We picked 5, and we're going to divide and conquer these. So Katie, the first comic cover that we're going to talk about today that we actually read is all yours.
Yes, which was Daredevil 283. I think that was written in the 66. Was that the year?
August 1990 was Daredevil.
Then I might not have read the right one.
Oh no!
Daredevil debuted in 1966, so I think that's just the character. Yes.
Maybe that was it. Yeah, I hope I read the right one. Was
I
it
hope
the one
so.
where it was the car?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good. Then I read the right one.
It was a team-up episode.
Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense because I was like, wow, this is really progressive for 66.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I was generally just impressed overall. I don't usually read a lot of older back issues. Especially when it comes to Marvel, and especially Daredevil and Cap, not really my cup of tea normally. But it seemed like it was more of a Captain issue than necessarily a Daredevil issue. But Cap he was socialist to the I loved it.
Yeah,
he was crazy leftist, just going
all
off, and I was
in there.
here for it. And there was a point where I honestly don't know if Marvel would be able to get away with this comic nowadays. I think that it would probably get, people talk about, comics being political and all that stuff. This was definitely a political comic because you had a gentleman who was an immigrant. It starts out in the opening page as him wrapped in the American flag. Right. His name is Victor. He's created a car that can run off of harmonics. It's made out of garbage, and he kind of repurposed it. And the idea is it can fly. And then the government, CIA, all of these people come and try to shut him down, and basically Big Oil all come after him. And Daredevil and Captain America have to stop him. And it comes down to a lot of just conversations between Captain America and Daredevil talking about how the American system is failing, about how we're falling behind, how, Europe is doing a lot of these things with social programs. And it really seemed like it was a reflection of a lot of what's going on right now as far as where people are or how a lot of the general population is feeling now versus how they were feeling then. And Charlie, I saw you had something to say. What do you want to say, man?
No, I wanted to hit mute because I was going to take a big.
Yeah, I saw your hand go up, Charlie. You have something to say.
I hit the wrong button. What I have to say is, you're crushing it, and you're great, and I like working with you. So thank you very much.
Oh well, thank you. I mean, I will say my one caveat of after being just pleasantly surprised by this entire comic was, Captain America's having this. There was this huge thing where he's talking about how he wears, this uniform and it feels like a second skin. And now he's starting to wonder about what it means for America. And at the end of the comic, he just is something happens. The guy ends up where they do this thing where they think that the guy is going to try to kill himself, but then he flies away with a jetpack.
Right.
And then Captain America picks up a flag and he's like, this is the America that I think of. And I was like, that didn't actually solve any of the problems that you and Daredevil were talking about 2 pages before. There's still the poverty discriminate or huge, birth between, the normal folks and the 1%. There's still all of these social issue programs of them constantly being defunded. There's still, America's still run by an oligarchy, but because a dude made a jetpack everything's good.
Because the guy flew off singing under his breath, "America, fuck yeah!"
So
Yeah. It's hard to solve the world's issues in 24 pages, essentially what we had.
Yeah.
And this was a standalone story. And that's really hard to tell a really solid story and just like what was the repercussions, what was the end game of this. And it was interesting. Ann Nesenti is a really good writer. And she did some of the best comics for Daredevil at the time. And Mark Bagley, surprisingly,
that's your guy. That's your guy.
Charlie, his art looked so much better than it does now because it looks like he was trying to have his own style versus its generic art guy. So I actually thought the art was pretty decent for Mark Bagley in 1990 before he came. I got to look like generic Spider-Man guy.
I have never bagged on Mark Bagley, pun intended. But I know Ann Nesenti through social media is one of the Facebook friends. She even wished me a very happy birthday this past February.
Oh,
yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, this was a very offbeat story, and you're absolutely right. Much like the X-Men comic that I'm going to talk about in a little while, they really subverted expectations around who was driving the boat in this story and whose book it was. But again, it worked. It worked in the same way that I think I'll describe that I think this X-Men book worked. So yeah, it was. But you're right. It worked. But in the end, didn't end up solving anything with the Dream Warrior flying away with his jetpack.
Yeah. If they would have just taken out that last panel of Captain America holding the flag, I would have been totally fine with it. And I would have said it works great. It's awesome. But just that weird last panel, I was like, eh.
That's all about. I should have ended up on the cutting room floor with just. There you go.
Yep, I would have been fine with that.
I guess he was so happy the guy didn't kill himself.
I guess.
America. There you go. Well, let's see. I've got the next two issues, and these were a mixed bag of crap, as you would say.
I was going to say, Todd, I don't really think the mixed part of it really applies. I think it's just a bag of crap.
There was very little fun in this dumbness. So there we go, Charlie.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and the first is worse than the last, but because the last really just lends itself to kind of what you expect. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, this was two DC comics, and unfortunately, because DC is older, if you go with like a 300 issue, you're going to get something from like times past. Yeah, right. So, World's Finest is essentially a DC comic book, which was a team up book, Superman and Batman. That's what they did. They did it for forever, kind of like Marvel Team Up, but well before that.
Right,
yes,
but where Marvel Team Up was at least rotating, this was just these two guys doing
and they would just go and experience different characters and things. Right. So World's Finest 295. This comic is well known as the Moon Dancers, which was very weird.
Very well known. Very well known.
Three ladies that have superpowers, and essentially this opened with actually the same thing with the Daredevil comic, where it opens up with the beginning of the comic and then it goes back to tell you what happened, before how we got there. So this opens essentially with Batman. Apparently, NASA has this number on speed dial to investigate why these satellites are getting exploded. And we got to put a man on the job. It's Batman. You know what? We could bring in the Secret Service, bring in Batman, have him explore. So he descends up to batarang up a missile, a satellite launcher to look what's going on. And as he's doing that, these three sexy moon ladies who have the name of New Moon, was it Harvest Moon?
Yep, Harvest Moon and Crescent Moon.
Crescent Moon was the other.
Wait a second, so all three were songs by Neil Young? That was the Harvest Moon.
Apparently, and then they take down Batman, and he's got a frozen arm injury, and then he gets a disease. So apparently these ladies are bad news. They gave him a venereal disease, apparently, as they were fighting. So Batman's out of commission. Superman has to investigate this. Very odd. Essentially, Superman finds the cure in a comet heart, which is just, I don't know, maybe that happens. But the great part about this comic is they essentially spoofed the great Carl Sagan, the great astronomer.
I said it to you guys when I was reading. I'm like, what the F is this shit?
And apparently, and this is all about Superman trying to figure out who did this, who's behind the scenes, who's sabotaging these space programs. And the Carl Sagan, they made him like, what, Carl Hagen or something like that. Yeah. It was really goofy and dumb.
Marl Bagan. That was him.
Yes, there we go. And then we end up finding out the guy who actually was behind the scenes, brought these moon ladies in to sabotage things, was a kid who was there for Hiroshima's being nuclear bombing. And this was all about removing America's nuclear powers by building a laser. It made no sense.
Any more sense than the X-Men Apocalypse movie we love so much that's what Apocalypse did. I'm going to take or Superman did in Superman 4.
Exactly. And I had to take some pictures of some of the things they said. And some of these were just so bizarre. I just didn't understand it. Like where Batman was going to take on a Harvest Moon who grew and she says, heads up, I just can't wait to get my arms around you. And this is what Batman replies to as he's about to attack her. He says, I'm ready for you this time. Your size changing ability took me by surprise once. Harvest Moon, while I'm just enough of a chauvinist to shrink from hitting a woman. Just enough of a chauvinist to shrink?
Yep.
I mean, wouldn't a chauvinist want to hit her? I just don't understand what that means.
I did not either. I did not either.
Just enough of a chauvinist is that?
But I'm I'm just enough chauvinist that I'd want to hit you. No, I don't think they knew what they were writing.
It was
very odd.
That was Bizarro Batman right there. Yes, I remember that line too. Yeah.
Yes, it was just very weird. The writing was odd. This was made in September 1983. Nonsensical is one way to put it. Generous as it may be.
I was very confused because they hit Batman, the moon dancers hit Batman with that virus thing. They didn't get it. It wasn't theirs. Dr. Nakamura made it. Mm-hmm. But so somehow he got a hold of an alien virus that they had no idea what it was. Like, how is it that he was able to do that? And then they kept talking about how his eyes were glowing red. And so I'm like, oh, okay, he must have been possessed by a radioactive monster or something.
He got radioactive powers by being at Hiroshima, maybe.
Sure. And then it was just like, no, he's
The real question is, where did these ladies come from? How did he employ them? Why did he convince them?
And I think, do you just put that ad on Craigslist? What do you do?
This is before Craigslist. This is the what is it? The wheeler dealer that you used to put out for 35 cents. You put it grocery stores. And it's like, I'm looking for this.
Right.
You just pull the little tabs off.
Yeah, why not?
Need help to dismantle, nuclear programs.
The next one over.
Help wanted must have superpowers and be ladies.
Next one over.
Magical floating moon thing.
Next one over their guitar lessons. There you go.
And apparently they're just let off and they go off in the sunset, never to be seen again. Apparently.
But also, why were they involved with our? Why did they care about our nuclear program? I mean, Also,
so many questions.
I started out and was just kind of rooting from them for the get-go because they're like, oh, well, they destroyed 3 military satellites. And I was like, go you. That sounds fun. Yeah, I'm not going to be upset about that. But also, why did they care? Where were they? So many answers. Nonsensical writing.
This is the problem with the 24-page story.
Right. We're like, we're trying to make a point eventually. We'll see what happens.
Well, and coming off of that Daredevil one, I was like, oh, this is no.
Oh, no.
Exactly. And I think this goes down to the fact that it was written by David Anthony Kraft and L.B. Kellogg. They had 2 writers to come up with a bad script. And then Jerome Moore, somebody else who was generic guy, DC guy back in the day. And... apparently there was a rift between Batman and Superman because of the Outsiders comic back in the day where Superman and Spider-Man formed his own team. Don't know. Charlie, did you have any other takes on this one?
Not at all. I mean, it was, like I said, when I was reading this, I was sending you guys screen grabs. I'm like, this is, and the Carl Sagan thing was in the first couple of pages. I'm like, this is going down. This is, you're going downhill on your bike with no brakes. This is just not going to it's just not going to get any better. So yeah, it's a sign of the times. It was 80s. This was a couple of years before Superman 4, where the same thing was done. Obviously the arms race was a big deal for everybody. And then they tried to circle back with commentary about Hiroshima, which I guess I don't really get because it was, I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah, yikes. Todd, I would definitely say that the next selection is a little bit more digestible.
Yes. So this one is Detective Comics 304, which we're going to go way back to June 1962. So this is pre-Marvel. So this is
No. The Golden Age of Marvel started in 1961 with Fantastic Four #1.
Okay, a year after.
It's close.
A year after, but close enough that DC already 300 issues essentially before Marvel even started. given that this is a Batman issue with Robin where they essentially were having to take down Clayface, and the cover did not lie because the cover was essentially in the comic, so you didn't have to even worry like, what's this about? It's about Clayface, Batman, classic schemes, Clayface with his hijinks.
Right.
We find out that he gets his powers from like a hot tub in the middle of the depths of Gotham City.
Hot tub! Gotta get in the water!
And it gives him powers for 48 hours.
48 minutes.
Yeah, 48 hours. And he has a plan to get money so he can survive, and he impersonates some people. And yeah, that's about it.
I like that at one point he stole $60,000 and was like, yeah, now I have enough money to start a new life and get a house and live rich. And I was like, excuse me, sir, what?
You could buy 12 houses for $60,000.
Yeah, you just bought a subdivision for $60,000.
Exactly. Yeah, $60,000. That's big money. That's like
$4
billion.
Like,
hold on. Let me get my inflation calculator, which is my absolute favorite app on my phone.
Okay, we're going to find out the value of $60,000 in 1962.
1963 to what was that? $60,000.
Yes.
Was over $500,000.
Okay, so not enough to really set you up for life.
Right. Exactly.
No, definitely not. You could maybe get a house and have
some spending bucks, but
exactly.
Not going to set you up for life.
But Todd, for sure, the action did not end with that story.
This was like 11-page story was the entry point. Then we got some weird like side comics that I didn't understand. It was like dad jokes or something like that. I did not know this actually happened in comics at the time, but oh well. But then we got a Martian Manhunter backup issue, which was fantastic because
the Crime School. I loved it.
Crime School. Yeah.
It was so I read that first section out loud to Aaron because I was like, babe, you are not going to believe this.
So good.
And he's like, what have you gotten yourself into with these two strange guys reading all this weird shit?
Oh man, no, we went into an entire like rant about propaganda.
This was really great. So Martian Manhunter, John Johns, actually his alter ego is a detective, John Jones, which is hey, there we go. He's got
throw the scent right off. There's no trouble.
And he's got an array of powers that essentially makes him like the most powerful hero in the world. But the bad thing is, apparently everybody knows his super weakness. I'm like, how does everybody know he's allergic to fire? How does everybody know this?
They didn't even have the internet, so how does everybody know?
I love that there was the tell was a dude lighting a cigarette and being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you're scared of fire." And then John Jones leaves, and he's like, as he's leaving, he's like, "That's fine, Commissioner. You can light up now."
Yeah, right. Oh God.
Was his boss like a general or something? I didn't understand. Was it like
I have no idea.
police cop general? I don't know.
I think it was like a commissioner. That's what I kind of assumed.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, the whole thing.
Talking about a super crime university. Or crime college, like
where you study to be good at crime.
Is a step either above or below clown college. You choose.
But the funny part was like how he foiled them. He like actually infiltrated them, but didn't stop infiltrating them. Even when he found what they were doing, he displaced their fire canister with some noxious fumes.
It was silly. It was
fire.
It was like silly string. That's what he should have done. Really, I mean, that would have been.
Oh, that would have been amazing. That would have been.
He could have busted them then, but he decided not to because he wanted to show that he got them. Ha ha.
Oh, so he put lives in danger just to basically pat his own ego. That's great. That's good stuff.
Apparently, yeah. But the writer was Bill Finger, who was one of the creators of Batman. Yeah, which was the fact that he was writing Batman for over 300 issues is just amazing.
That is, yes.
And Sheldon Moldoff is another classic Batman artist.
Okay,
as you think of. Yeah, because Sheldon Moldoff, if you think of the entry, the beginning of Batman 66, the TV series, that art was Sheldon Moldoff.
Right. You're right. This was a dead ringer. And one thing I did also really notice is that you can tell by the degradation of the fact that this is from 60 years ago that all the paneling of the art was very pixelated. Just a little bit, and I don't know the specific.
Who would have thought to keep comics from in any type of fashion from over 50 years ago?
Well, they were
in a place.
Yeah, they were simply like newspapers back then because I bought this for 10 cents, I read it and
throw it away.
Trash. Yeah, exactly. And they didn't even have any recycling; just went right into the landfill. So that makes that does make sense.
So 3 down, 2 to go. Charlie, you got Thor 331, written by Alan Zelenet and penciled by Bob Hall before Walt Simonson took over.
Right, this was the run up to that. And Bob Hall, I've actually met Bob Hall at least our local Grand Rapids Con, but maybe I met him somewhere else as well. But yeah, this was funny because I was reading it this evening when April and I were sitting on the couch. Something was on and we were watching. I'm reading this and I'm showing her panels as I'm going through. I'm like, babe, did you know that in the 80s Thor lived in Chicago? And being in Chicago and being in our hotel room, I had brought along. I have the travel Roku that I bring with me when I travel for work, and I plugged it into the hotel TV. And she was like, I want to watch Adventures in Babysitting. It's one of her favorite movies from the 80s. Well, in that movie, the little girl is obsessed with Thor, and the movie takes place in Chicago in the 80s.
Makes sense.
You got that?
And Thor was played by the Kingpin.
April thought and I'm giving her a shout. I don't know. I'm sure she can hear my voice because I'm loud as hell, and she's upstairs. But I had to give her total props for that. That was terrific. But yeah, this was an oddball one. So it starts off. It feels like maybe it was a holdover from the previous issue. I'm not sure, or maybe not. But Thor is supposed to get the keys to the city, so he's on the city streets, and he's fighting this dude who is a religious zealot known as the Crusader, who, by hook or by crook, power of God, whatever it is, you guys know how I feel about uber religious stuff. It's just not my scene. He manages to fell Thor. He cuts him in the face. He runs him through with the sword. And I didn't realize at this point that the relationship between Thor and Lady Sif, they were betrothed, and they were involved with each other.
Shacking up.
Yeah, I didn't really even know that they were a thing. But while Thor was playing Donald Blake, the civilian identity of Sif was his cousin Sybil. So that
was awkward.
That was kind of unseemly as well. So,
we're living together.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there's one bed, and I don't sleep on the couch. She's like my fifth cousin. It's totally cool.
Distant cousins, yes.
So there was a lot of stuff about that. Again, I really don't take a loving to a lot of uber religious themed stuff. And a lot of this was like, this guy punched a priest. Now we're gonna this thing and that thing, and it was just there's a lot about this that just absolutely did not work for me.
I thought it worked because of that.
When he punched the priest, I agree. I think
not the priest punching.
The fact that the priest was trying to stop the Crusader because he was basically he was Christian extremism, and. Then Thor got to take him out. So I was like, I was kind of surprised by this because I was like, dude, in the 80s, they're just going to be like, no, man, being a Christian extremist is kind of that's a villain.
Right. But you know what? That's a very look at that. Katie has again turned me around.
Yeah, who'd have thought a priest could be a positive role model in these days?
Right, exactly. And then he wasn't a Catholic priest, though, so it's okay. That's okay. I'm a Catholic. I can make Catholic jokes. It's like being Jewish, I believe. So I got into it for the jokes. Wasn't that the old Seinfeld episode?
Well, I would say to that point, this was about a faith-based issue because you saw the Crusader as his faith was strong, where Thor's resolve was weakened. He was distracted, didn't know what to deal with. He was actually uncomfortable with having followers because that was something that the Asgardians hadn't dealt with in many years. They actually referred to that with Zeus. Like, we don't deal with the humans anymore. Yeah, we don't rely on their faith to. Yeah. So that was an interesting conduit of faith. Thor could be wounded because he was not fully informed, where the Crusader was strongest when he was full of resolve, where people started actually turning against him, where you kind of felt like his resolve changed. So I actually thought there was a message here. It was kind of clunky, but still, once again, we're seeing a continual 24 pages to tell a story. Can you do it well or badly?
Absolute favorite part. I'm giving bonus points for the fact that the Crusader throws a bum drum. Which anybody who's watched the Rocky movies know that is simply an oil can that bums stand around to warm themselves because there's fire in it. But Thor picks it up and and he says it while he's doing it, throws it into Lake Michigan. I love it. Thor polluting our Great Lakes. I love it. Thank you very much, Thor.
Oh,
Well,
no, I loved the part where Odin tells Thor when he comes to him after he's nearly died that he's too busy to talk to him because he's working on the Asgardian remodel.
He's refurbishing.
He's
refurbishing.
I think
That was the part that I
think
loved.
that's just the code that he's getting booty. But I mean, that was just my impression.
I've got some remodeling to do, son. You know, your perils over there. Exactly. It was funny though, because it's like when I think of a steel drum being used, it's like a video game trope that it's going to explode.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's how you can get the bad guy. Throw a drum at him.
Not
and
when
explodes.
you can throw it into Lake Michigan and it's all good. Anyway, and that was from May 1983. So, and as Todd pointed out, this was before the Walt Simonson dynasty. That was really the highlight of Thor. For
Yes.
the time. But one thing that was potentially not the highlight of this particular title, it was 1997's X-Men 346, written by Scott Lobdell, take with it as you will, pencils by Joe Moderna and Rodney Ramos. So, and Todd, you're gonna, and this was fairly recent because 346, we're on 371, so this was just a handful of months ago that we talked about this. And again, when the covers come up, we just kind of riff on them in general. This story had, I feel like, almost no X-Men in it. This was to me
Only two.
Yeah, and one of them was a super aside where you saw Gambit on some, either he was on a weird distant island or he was on an alien planet. I didn't exactly get a super vibe.
He was the X-Men always would go off on like space missions, so that was a sidebar to let you know, hey, Gambit's doing something. Return back in next episode because we're probably going to talk about that.
Exactly.
Was that a zebra that was in the reflection?
I think that might have been like one of the horse aliens in Marvel at one point. I don't know.
It looked like a giant zebra. I was going to ask you guys what that was.
It was at the fruit stripe zebra, maybe.
Maybe.
Just put space in front of it and it space anything, and it qualifies. But I love this. This story started out with the bustling bullpen of the Daily Bugle with J. Jonah Jameson running down the story about this controversial killing of this Todd. And again, my head is full of stuff. He was an anti-mutant activist. Was a Grayton Creed he was killed by anti-mutant activists.
He was actually a presidential candidate, and he was actually related to
Robert. Was it a Robert Kelly kind of thing?
No, he was related to Sabretooth.
Oh,
Sabretooth's son running for president.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, but J. Jonah Jameson's running through and saying, we got to cover this part of it, and, Ben Urich do this, and he's throwing off names of, Daily Bugle people who from reading Spider-Man. And then in the end, he's approached by the shadowy figure who says, I've got all the dirt you need. This is everything you've got that I want you to print in your newspaper. And Jameson burns it and says, you know what? I'm a reporter. I've been a reporter my whole life. Somebody's not going to walk in here and hand me a story that's of clear bias with no reference and nothing. The power of print is the power of truth. It's an awesome responsibility. And I'm going to find out everything I need to know, but I'm not going to get it from you. As a journalist, I love that because that was how I got my start. I was a journalist from the time I was in junior high. And I love J. Jonah Jameson, as flawed as a character as he was, but what a weird place to have a story like this. And of course, Spider-Man is in it, and he's trying to save Henry Peter Gyrich, who was originally an Avengers character, but he's this mutant crusader, and he's fighting the character of Marrow, and then Callisto, not Callisto, that's Callisto.
Not Callista Flockhart, no.
Yes.
No, not Ally McBeal.
It was the Morlocks, because I remember from the what the hell was that? The Morlock thing in the 80s. What was it in the X-Men?
Yeah, Extinction Agenda, where basically
No. It was before that.
The Morlocks, where they killed all the Morlocks in the caves, and Archangel lost his wings.
Yeah. Angel lost his wings became So it was the whatever that was. Yeah, and then Storm had to fight Callisto in a knife fight and became the leader.
Oh no, that was well before that. That was long before that. There was the Morlocks are just basically the mutants have lived underground who try to escape, try to live peacefully, and that Callisto was one of them. She was the leader of the Morlocks, and then Marrow was one of the next generation of mutant characters where she could take bones out of her system, and she essentially was a mutant that could blend in, and that was the theme of this. talking about like Spidey is essentially could be a mutant because he was mutated.
Right.
He can blend in because there was a lot of narrative about that, which I think was really good.
I thought this was really superior. And again, my following of the X-Men kind of ended with the 17-year run of Claremont. I think I've read them all. I'm pretty close anyway. I probably should finish that at one point. But I probably wrapped up in the early 200s, so this is way, way past that for me. But Todd, this is when we were in college, so you probably picked this up, off the stand.
Yeah. Joe Mad, as we would call him, was a great artist. He kind of brought the anime manga feel to the X-Men at the time. It was a really fresh breath in the way the X-Men were created after Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, that group, John Romita Jr. I loved the title. I thought at the time, Scott Lobdell's, his writing is so at sometimes, but I like this one because once again, they were doing something different, focusing on more of like Spidey being kind of the if you're new to the X-Men, and you have Spidey to guide you, kind of bring you in. But it was also part of a storyline called Operation Zero Tolerance, where Bastion, who's the character behind the scenes, he's basically acting as like a government representative, but essentially is a hybrid Sentinel that actually is human and a Sentinel from the future to kill all the mutants. Right. And he's in disguise. And that's why you saw those bodyguards essentially were activated. They're basically sleeper agents who didn't even know they were sleeper agents who were activated when they're around mutants become Sentinels. And Nimrod was the first one introduced around issue 190-ish. Going back to my age because I'm a huge mutant stan. But this is kind of bringing it in, and this was the second stage of it. So I like the fact that it was truly Bastion trying to use the media and things like that to out the mutants, and he didn't. So I like this as a standalone episode, but I get it. It's a lot to handle in one issue. But once again, it's the most modern comic we did, and it's still 25 years old.
Right. Yeah, and it did, and just based on our own numbering. So I think this really did a nice job of, again, embracing the familiar with the Spider-Man parts of it. So again, it was a little more accessible to the rank and file, and me in particular being a Spider-Man guy. So so I like that. Katie, your thoughts?
I think that it worked really well in kind of the way that they use the Spider-Man Marrow fight to work as kind of a shoulder angels to the discussion that Jameson was having with Bishop, where it was kind of Spider-Man fighting for, with great power comes great responsibility. Like he literally says that to Marrow at one point, and she's saying, no, we have been, persecuted. We have had, all of these issues. We need to do whatever we can to get ahead. And then Bishop is handing, Jameson a CD with all of the identities of all of the known mutants and saying, here, this is everything you want. Because, in the beginning of the issue, Jameson had gone off a rant about how, every mutant should be or shouldn't be able to hide if they can blend in. So obviously that's something that he wants to do. He wants to demask them. And you end up having it ultimately where Jameson's saying, absolutely no. I know that you are the bigger story because basically Bishop was just trying to tempt him because he knows he's getting to it. So he says, no, I'm not going to do this. And so I thought the parallels there were really nice as far as the beats went that were back and forth. I'm going to be honest, Madeira's writing or his art is a little jarring for me.
It's a little chaotic at times.
Yeah, I don't, especially the way that he draws women was very off-putting.
Super 90s.
I would say manga cheesecake because manga, if you look at a lot of manga, it's the same way. It's very cheesecake, very exaggerated, things being highlighted. And if you're watching the YouTube, you could see me be very sexualized right now, which nobody wants. But hey, there it is.
But I thought this was a really great end cap for the 5 that we're reading, and it made me realize that I just like Marvel stories better.
Right.
Yeah, we were bookmarked with probably the best of, and the middle was just a mix of a hybrid sandwich of.
A hybrid sandwich of meh. Oh,
exactly, or yeah. Well, pick your discretion.
Pick your mood. Well, this was great, and this is. I would say we should do something like this. I would even say quarterly. I think we could really nail it. The 3 of us get together, read 5 random issues. I'm totally on board. This is good stuff. This was a good idea. Todd is the idea man. I'm the idiot when it comes to. I'm the talent.
I'm always looking for new ideas for topics. So, Katie, if you have any ideas of topics we should capture when you're on the show, we're always
I just
open.
show up.
I'll just show up. It's like low pressure. I just show up and prepare. But you prepare well, though. I appreciate that. You prepare well.
Definitely bring it. And with that, we bring this fun little tale to a close. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. Katie, where do people find you out there in the socials?
You can find me on Twitter at QTGeek. That's Q_T Geek. And I am on Instagram at KPhotoscape.
Excellent. And as always, you can find me over on Twitter at the C3. Spell that out. The wife and I also run the Michigan chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club, the USS Grand Petoskey. Find us on all socials and on our website of the same name. We're always looking for a few good Trekkers. So, Todd, what about you?
You can follow me at T-Extra, where I'm always raging against the machine, having fun on the video games, at Spartyon98, Spartyon1998 on the various video game consoles, and have a good time and talking about video games once every other week on co-op mode, so find us there. So that is it, Charlie. We are done for the show. I'm glad we had a good time. Katie, thank you again. It's always a pleasure. We'll see you again in a couple weeks for probably something very fun and enjoyable. Maybe Doctor Strange, perhaps.
Ooh, yes.
So strange. Don't forget, of course, you can catch Katie and myself talking about Star Trek bi-weekly over on the Code 47 podcast on this very network. Plug. But friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
You can keep it sleazy.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Gotta go fast.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.